Okay, we're rolling.
Hey, welcome back to the How to Podcast series. It's Dave with you. I hope you're doing well. We're going to take a long, hard look in the mirror today. Yeah, we're going to be talking about mirroring, something I don't hear a lot of podcasts about podcasting talk about, and for that reason, that's why we exist. We talk about stuff that other people don't talk about, and this is something that's going to help you as an interviewer. It's also going to help you as a solo podcaster, for you to understand what mirroring is and how mirroring can really impact your conversations and how you show up and how your audience feels when they listen to your show. So we're talking about mirroring here on the podcast. I'm glad you're here. Stick around. Let's look deep into the mirror and see what we can come up with. Just a reminder too, before we jump into everything, we're doing a survey right now at the time of recording on howtopodcast.ca. I would love for you to check it out. There's also a link in the show notes. Would love to get your feedback on the show. Some simple questions, not really difficult, but the information that you provide in your free time would really help me and help the show. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for that. Go to howtopodcast.ca and you'll see the survey. It'll say survey right there on the page. Just click it, go through, answer a few questions, and I'd love to hear from you. Thanks. So what is mirroring? Mirroring is one of the most powerful tools that a podcast host has. And most podcasters use it without even realizing they're using it. It's your tone, it's your pace, and your energy. And they act like a starting point. When you have a guest on your show, your guest will subconsciously match or come up to or lower themselves to where you are as the host. They'll either rise up or dial themselves back to meet you where you are. We need to learn how to use mirroring intentionally. We can turn a flat interview by using mirroring into a more engaging conversation, and a chaotic guest into a more focused and on-brand conversation. So think about it. You have someone who is flat. There's no life in their voice. There's no emotion. You coming in a little bit more animated, you coming in a little bit more excited to talk to the guest. You hear the smile in your voice because you smile when you talk. Brings that a little piece of that out of your guest. They'll come up to you in that moment. But then you have somebody who's scattered. You know that person who's a squirrel chaser. They're all over the place and they're hyper. A calm podcast host can bring out a sense of calm and peace and more of a measured response, and can slow down somebody who just is all over the place. You have a lot of power in how you use your voice. It's an instrument, and you need to use your instrument well. The power of mirroring for a podcaster. So I've had people on my podcasts, not this show and other shows, and I always do a pre-chat with them, which helps in my mirroring background work. And I quickly can establish if this guest is going to be somebody I need to drag with me. Like they're not a conversationalist. They don't give fun, story-ridden answers to questions. They kind of are a one-word answer machine. And it really is going to take a lot of work to turn this recording into a conversation. Those are hard. So I know that because I've had a pre-chat with them. And then there's the others that are, if you don't cut them off, they're going to take off with your show. So I know that when I meet somebody, what I'm up against. And again, remember, you as a podcaster, if you've had 10 episodes or 500 episodes or 1,000, you talk and you know how to talk and you know your audience and you know the tone and cadence of your voice and you know how your show sounds and you've heard feedback. And so you already have all this built into your brain. Your guest, this might be their very first time ever being on a microphone, being interviewed by a stranger, and they're nervous. And then when nerves come in, people change. You could meet somebody and have this great conversation, and then you turn on the mic and they just blank out. It's that whole red light syndrome thing where people realize that, oh, now we're recording, and they're like a big gulp in their throat. They're like, and they just look at you with big eyes like, oh boy, I'm being recorded, right? So that is something that we need to understand and we need to prepare our guests for. So mirroring is a great way to kind of realize where your guest is and where you want them to be, and you need to show up. So for that guest that's hyper, you need to be calm. For that guest that is very quiet, very withdrawn, you need to be a little more animated and safe for that person so that they can come out of their shell a little bit. Just understand, you need to read the room and read your guests. It's very important. So what mirroring really is for podcasters? Humans naturally mirror the people they are interacting with. Have you noticed that? When you get a party and one person's a little bit tipsy, everyone, and they're like loud and they're dancing, everyone kind of like, oh, okay, I'm going to be a little bit more animated. I'll be a little bit more like them. Right? People seem to mirror the people around them. They seem to have a way of checking the room and matching the energy of the room. It could be in your posture, your facial expression, the tone of your voice, and your emotional intensity is something that people copy. People look around. They don't want to be so dramatically different than everyone else. They want to just blend in. So they read the room. And as a host, you are the one who sets the baseline for what you want in your show. If you meet with somebody and you come in super low, he's like, hey, welcome to the show. Yeah, I'm going to be good to have you on. Yeah, this will be good. Are you ready? Okay, let's hit record. Okay, here we go. That's a really low base. You're not going to come up high from there. Hey, everybody, right? You're going to be kind of really just there. And if you come in just, wow, really amped up and really loud and fast, and your guest is either going to get big eyes and get nervous, or they're going to come up to you a little bit. They might not match you completely, but they're going to come up to your level. If you show up scattered or monotone or nervous, rushed, your guest will tend to drift into the same lane, into the same direction. If you are grounded and warm and clearly engaged in the conversation, most guests will lean into that presence as well. Instead of thinking, my guest has low energy or they're way too much for my show, start with, what am I giving them as an emotion, a feeling, a tone? What am I giving them for them to match? Mirroring is not about faking a personality. It's not the used car salesman or late night TV advertisement. Hey, Sunday, that kind of stuff. It's about choosing a deliberate state and inviting your guest into it. You set the room. You set the space. It's up to you. It's not up to your guest. It's up to you. You decide. Calm and curious, playful and serious, high energy, reflective. What is the tone of this conversation? And then you hold that tone consistently enough that they feel safe enough to settle into it. So how do you turn up a quiet or shy guest? So I don't know if you, as you listen through the How to Podcast series, if you've been here more than once, if you get the tone of this show. I'm a pretty calm, level person. I'm pretty shy, actually, and I'm pretty quiet in a public setting, with a bunch of strangers. You could take me to a podcast conference, I shrink. I become the tiniest person in the room. It's not me. I don't like people coming at me that I don't know, and it's my downfall. For me, I know I have to dial, a Dave dial, I call it, that I need to turn up and be a little more animated. And it's not that I'm being fake, but I just know that's a part of me that I don't go to often. So I can go there, but it usually exhausts me over time. It's something that I have to be conscious of. And if I don't adjust the Dave dial in a public setting, I'm going to seem kind of aloof. I'm going to seem a little withdrawn, not engaging with people. I'm looking for the exit to the conversation. I'm looking for the physical exit to the room. That's just who I am. And that's how I've been my entire life. And I'm not a broken extrovert. That's Dave. That's who I am. So somebody who's shy or introverted or first-time guest often arrive anxious to your podcast. They're worried about saying the wrong thing or stumbling on words or wasting your time, right? If you stay very low energy with them, the conversation can spiral into an awkward pauses and one-word answers. To bring them up to a level without overwhelming them, start warmer than them, not louder than them. And when you work with somebody who's shy, think open and encouraging, a touch more animated than your normal baseline would be, but not the radio voice, but smile. They're going to hear it. Use their name and give generous verbal nods. You don't have to speak over them all the time. Just they can see you on the camera if you're using a video recording like Zoom or whatever. Nod along. Show you're engaged. Don't be looking down off camera and they don't know what you're looking at. They're going to slow down and stop. And give little encouraging things. Like, that's really interesting when they talk. Like, oh, I love that. You did that. Wow, that's amazing. Tell me more about that. Encourage them with your words. Encourage them with how you show up on camera. And let them see you engage with them. And ask some easy win questions first. Instead of dropping right into a deep, complex question right off the bat. Some podcasters like to do this. It's a little intimidating for someone who hasn't been a seasoned podcast guest. But ask some more easier questions at the beginning. On my Living the Next Chapter podcast. It's an author podcast. I do this on purpose. And some people, some gurus tell me it's wrong, but whatever. I don't buy their courses anyway. I always ask my guests, where are you in this great big world of ours? That's kind of how I frame it. And I do that for every guest. Why do I do that? Because they're going to tell me I live in Dallas, Texas, or I live in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, or I live in, Spain, wherever. They tell you where they live. And when they do that, maybe people listening go, oh, I've been to Spain, or I'm from Spain, or I'm from Dallas, Texas. Wow. People can then, who are listening, because I have a global audience, can then identify with, I've been there before, or I'm from there, or I might know this person. It's a grounding, easy question at the beginning. Nobody needs to prepare this answer because they're from there. They live there. They know about them. And I'll ask them maybe a supplemental question if they're still a little nervous. Like, what's so beautiful about where you live? What do you love to do there? If I came to visit you, where would you take me? Right? And that could be a restaurant. It could be a location. It could be an attraction. It could be something special about that area. They get to gush on their hometown. Who doesn't want to do that? Right? So that's an easy win question at the beginning of the interview. And it makes people just sit in and go, oh, I'm okay. I can do this. I can do this. And a little bit of confidence goes a long way for a new guest. Other simple questions you can ask at the beginning if you don't want to ask where people are from. How they started what they do is a good one. What they care about right now. What's their current project? What are they up to? People love talking about themselves, right? It's the one thing that's very disarming, and it's front of mind for them because they're dealing with it in real time. So don't be afraid to ask people what they're up to. Because people would love to tell you their latest project, and it's a great way to open the conversation. As they answer, your job is to mirror their best moments. If they briefly light up telling a story, then lean into that thing. Their eyes got bigger, they smiled, they sat up straight while they talked about this thing. That's a key for you to clue into that what they're saying in this moment is really important to them. So don't let it slide by. Talk about that more. Like, lean into that. The podcast is the podcast, and it's going to happen. But this is important to them in the moment. So be very clear and watch your guest when they start talking about something they're passionate about, and lean into it. They want to talk about it more, and they're going to cut themselves off because they don't feel like they want to overtake the conversation with this thing, but you want that feeling. So lean into that. And then use scaffolding and reassurance. If answers are short, think of scaffolding on the side of a building to get up to the higher levels. They build like a network of ramps and levels to get all the way up to the high parts of the building. We do that in our podcast as interviewers. If answers are short, widen the questions, right? So they give you an answer and it's like 1 or 2 words. It's like, done. Come back. Can you walk me through what that looked like? Like, that's amazing. You got there, but how did you get there? Or what was going through your mind at that point? Like you made that big decision. You quit your job to start this thing. Like, were you nervous? Like, was your stomach upset right in that moment where you're like, I'm done, I quit? When they answer, affirm both their content and their presence. Like, that's really clear. Thanks for explaining that way. I think the audience is really going to understand that better. The way you frame that's well done. I really like that. You're doing fine. Keep going. Like, encourage them. Like, they're like, oh, but maybe that's enough. No, we'd like to hear more. That's really, you're on a great, I love where we're going with this. Keep going. That kind of coaching with your guest, that's amazing because they feel safe with you. And the more you do this, you'll find the tone, they're going to come out of their shell a little bit, especially for shy people. Also for shy people, slightly exaggerate clarity and structure. Speak in clear, organized sentences. This is really important too if you have people on your show who don't come from where you come from. They may be from another country. I have people on my show I had someone on from the Czech Republic, and I've had people on from India. I've had people on from New Zealand, different parts of the world. And I find that when I speak with clear words, not simple words, I'm not talking down to anybody, but I don't need flowery words. And I don't need to lean on Canadian stereotypes and things that mean something to me, but probably don't mean anything to anybody else. I listen to like UK podcasts, and some UK podcasters, they just fall in love with UK and you have no idea what they're talking about. They're throwing words out there and terminology and things, and you're like, I have zero clue what that means, but it means something to you, so good on you, but I have no idea what you just said. So we need to understand that we need to speak clearly. We need to speak in a way that is organized for our audience and our guest. And also summarize their points back to them. That's a really good way of doing this. It also brings your audience back into the conversation and gently extend their ideas as well. Be careful with this that you don't overtake the conversation and they're sitting there listening to you as a guest on your show, but expand on a little bit of what they said to reinforce what they said. Sometimes people, and you got to be careful again, you don't do this to show your mental superiority over them because you said it better than they did. But I love it when somebody's like, yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Yeah, that's exactly it. But restating it, giving it some more context, or maybe adding your own, a short part of you into it could really help. They will tend to mirror that structure and they'll go from clipped responses to more fuller stories. And celebrate with small expansions too. When they give a longer answer than before, respond with genuine appreciation. Like you see them change during the interview, encourage it, support it. The positive feedback loops nudges their energy upward without you ever saying, can you be a little bit more energetic? Like that's going to kill the conversation. Don't do that. The goal is to not turn a quiet person into a loud one, but to lift them 1 or 2 levels into a relaxed, confident conversation while still respecting their natural style. So that's how you deal with somebody who's a little bit shy, like me, if I was a guest on your show. But what do you do with the overhyped, chaotic guest, the squirrel chaser? How do you deal with them? That's the opposite. You will have people on your show that don't finish sentences. They're super excited. Maybe they're just overly nervous, but they are just a word machine. Hundreds of words a minute, just on and on and on. And you're like, I don't even know how to handle this. And then you have people who take over your podcast as a guest and they run away with your show. You ask them one question and they don't shut up for 35 minutes answering the first question. They're just like, I could leave and the guest wouldn't even know that I've gone anywhere, right? You as the host need to set the tone. You are either going to have to come right up to match them, or you're going to have to pull them back down a little bit in how you do your show. So some of these guests, they arrive like they just drank 3 espressos and they are mid keynote address in front of thousands of people. Think of the Gary Vaynerchuk world, right? They're just, yeah, right? They're just in. They're all in. And that's who they are. That's how they show up. It could be a defense mechanism. It could be a way to overcome stress or nervousness, or it could just be their general default setting. And you need to understand that. So that's why I do pre-interviews. I know that before I get on my call. And you people who think pre-interviews are a waste of time, good luck for you. This could be a fun moment for you when you meet somebody who's like hyped up to the max. But if your show is more reflective or educational, or the tone is more just engaging and contemplative, constant hype can feel off-brand for you, for your show, for your audience, and it can be exhausting. So here's some ways to downward mirror and help your guest. First, ground yourself first. Slow your breathing, sit solidly, and drop your vocal pace slightly. If you speak 10 to 20% slower and a little softer while still sounding engaged, you create a gravity and your guests will sink into it. So try that. Try it in the pre-interview. You'll see it works. Use calm framing questions instead of matching their rapid-fire style or squirrel-like behavior. Ask focused prompts. Like, let's slow down on. Let's slow down on that a bit. I really want to come back to this. Can you walk us through step by step what you just described? Like, what a clarifying question. And your audience is going to love you for it, because they're like, what's up with this person? Or, that's a big idea. What's the first thing a listener should take from that? That's an awesome question to get people to go, okay. Your request for clarity acts as a gentle brake. In my car, if it's a slippery, snowy day, I don't just hit the brakes with both feet and hope for the best. I gradually touch the brake. I slow down in advance. I plan out my stops so I don't slide through the intersection. For you as a podcast host, interviewing a guest who's hyperactive, squirrel chasing, you need to understand this and be calm and use those framing questions. Let's slow that down a bit. Can you walk us through that step by step as you just described her? That's a big idea. What's the first thing a listener should do and take away from that? Reflect on their points in calmer language as well. After a high energy rant where they're just summarize it in a more composed tone. So what you're telling, what you're really saying is, or what you're really trying to say, but what I'm hearing is, don't speak for them. What I'm hearing is that this is what I'm getting at what you just said. Those are ways to slow them down and have them be a little bit more reflective and not so reactive. And normalize pauses. Hyper guests often fear silence. They think this is a radio show, and if I'm quiet, I'm doing it wrong. And they want to fill every gap with more talk, more energy. As a host, allow a second of quiet after they finish, then respond thoughtfully. You control the pace of the show. You don't have to run downhill with your guests. You can be the calm, more reflective, and counterbalance to someone who is hyperactive, right, as a guest. Little micro pauses teaches your guests that they can be reflective and their pacing will come to match and mirror yours. Re-anchor your show's tone as well. If they keep slipping into infomercial mode where they start, just doing the thing and going from rote memory, or they're just hyped up, you can say, one thing my listeners really appreciate is practical, grounded examples. Can you share one story where this made a difference? This thing you're talking about? You're signaling the lane that you want them in, kindly but firmly. This is your show. Your guest is a guest on your show. And you're protecting your audience. Here, mirroring is about offering a calmer, more focused energy for them to match instead of joining their whirlwind and losing the feel of your own show. So how do we make mirroring work in both directions for both a shy guest and a squirrel chasing hyper guest? What do we do? First, decide on your desired energy for your podcast before you hit record. Three words can help. My show is calm, curious, and confident. Or my show is playful, sharp, and encouraging. And check your voice, your posture, and your pace against those 3 words that you define for your show. If you've never done this before, I really encourage you. What are your 3 words? What is your show? I think calm, curious, and confident is really who I am as a person. And I think I carry that through into all my different shows. And then diagnose your guest's starting state quickly. Are they tense and quiet? Are they chatty and scattered? Or already close to your target? And then adjust your starting energy accordingly, and slightly above for your shy guests and slightly below for your hyper guests. And hold your baseline consistently. Guests will test your energy. A joke that falls flat, a rant, a long pause. If you keep returning to your chosen tone instead of being dragged into theirs, most guests will slowly sync up with you. It's amazing. Use your editor brain in real time. Notice when their energy is hurting clarity, either too low, they're mumbling, they're trailing off, they don't finish their sentences, or too high. They're rambling, interrupting themselves. They trip over their own words. They're not finishing complete thoughts. And ask questions that naturally raise or lower intensity without calling it out, without singling them out and making sport of them. You need to be aware of what's happening. They're probably completely unaware. Ultimately, mirroring as a podcaster is about leadership. You're the leader of your show. You're the leader of your guest. You are not just asking questions as a podcast host. You are hosting the emotional space, the safety of your podcast, and the conversation. When you learn to set energy and invite guests to match it, shy people feel braver. High-octane guests feel held and safe. They don't feel like they have to overperform. And your show sounds more like a podcast you always imagined than a random mix of personalities. The tone of your show isn't dependent on how your guest shows up. It's dependent on how you, as the host, manage your guests, how you bring them up when they're low or down when they're high, and you bring them to the established tone of your show. When I listen to a guest on your show who's quiet, I should hear you gently bringing them out of their shell, bringing them up a couple notches. And when I listen to your show and somebody is typically a guest who is just a random rant generator, and they're just on, and they just talk from memory and talk from rote talking points, you bring them back down a little bit into more of a thoughtful conversation. That's the skill of a podcast host who understands tone, understands mirroring, and understands how to bring the best out of their guests without making your guests feel like they're being talked down to or being coerced into a new version of themselves. We want our guests to be themselves. But at the same time, we're here to serve an audience, and we're here to build the tone of our show. So my question for you, as you prepare for your next guest on your podcast or your first guest, how are you going to set the tone? How are you going to set, with intention, your mirroring so that your guest gets the best experience possible? I still encourage everyone, pre-interviews are great. Quick 15, 20-minute conversation. I like to do it weeks before the episode, not the same day. Your choice, whatever works for you. But I want to meet with them. I want to see their resting state, and then I need to know where I need to put time and effort to bring out the best in my guest. Your guest trusts you. You're the host of the show. You're the expert. So live up to what your guest is expecting from you in the conversation, and you will have a great interview. Your guest will remember this interview because you brought the best out of them. So podcast mirroring as an interviewer also works for yourself. Think about it. A solo episode, you can really make it better by understanding your own personal state. Are you calm today? Are you frazzled today? Are you engaged today? Are you disengaged? How are you showing up solo on the mic? There's a lot of great things here too that can help you personally. So if you have any questions, I'd love to help you. howtopodcast.ca. If you ever want to just practice being a guest or having a guest on your show and just you being the host, and you're like, I want to practice before I have a real guest. I'll be your fake guest. I love doing these. I do them a lot. I just show up with a podcaster who's learning, and you ask me questions as if I'm a guest. And if you use the interview, awesome. If you don't, we can talk about anything. I don't care. Just delete the episode and go to your next guest knowing you've already done at least one interview. I love to be your practiced guest for your show. So when you're starting a new interview podcast from scratch and you have nowhere to begin, and you're like, I have no idea what I'm doing, then let me be your guest. Reach out to me. There's a calendar invite right on my podcast page at howtopodcast.ca. You can get there anytime. It's always open. So jump in. If it's available, it works for you, put it in the show notes or the comment section of the invite that you want to practice interviewing. And I'll show up ready to be interviewed. Let's go. I'm fine. So I'd love to help you with that. Thanks for being here. Get out that mirror and make sure there's no broccoli in your teeth. But also make sure that you're using that mirror to help your guests. Take care. Hey, thanks for being here. Thank you for listening to the end of the podcast. You're here with me. I'm so grateful. I want to put something in front of you. For the person that's listened this far, you're my new best friend. So what I'm trying to do every month is I have a goal, and you can help me with this goal. Very simple. What I'm trying to do is have 5 conversations this month with listeners of the How to Podcast series. You don't have to have a podcast to respond. This can be the first time ever that we're going to have a conversation, but I'm looking to talk to 5 people. Now, you're still here, so you're one of the people that I would love to talk to next. So on my howtopodcast.ca website is a calendar, and I'd love to have you respond on howtopodcast.ca. Just click the calendar link, set up time in my calendar, and in the comment section for the meeting, just put something like listener. That's it. If you have a show, put it in the comments too so I can go listen. But if you don't, I just want to talk to 5 listeners every month from now to the end of the month. So if you're listening to me right now, you're the person I want to talk to. And through howtopodcast.ca, you and I can get together, chat about the show, chat about your journey as a podcaster. Where are you at? What do you need the show to become for you? What's missing? Your feedback. I just want to meet you. And as podcasters, I would encourage you to do something similar to this in your podcast so that you can meet and interact with your audience. So howtopodcast.ca, I'm looking to talk to 5 people every month, and I would love for you to be one of them. Reach out. It's free. I'm not selling you anything. I just want to talk to you at howtopodcast.ca. Let's get in the calendar and chat. Thanks for listening. Great, you're still here? Okay, awesome. So this is a part of the show where most people have left because they've heard the outro, they've heard the music to leave, and they're gone. But I put a bonus question and answer at the end for those that stick around. There's a reason I want people to listen to the end of the show. By listening to the end of the show, that's a good signal to whatever you're using right now that this is a good podcast, because people come, they stay, and they stay right to the end. So I'm doing this on purpose, but also giving us a chance to give one more bonus tip for you and to help you. So around the question that I got recently was around building community. I have a meetup group that I've had for now 3 years, and we meet twice a week. And it's a community. It's a bunch of people who get together We have all of the drama of humans interacting with humans. We've had some people come. We've had some people try to overtake the group and try to wreck the group. We've had people trying to sabotage the group. It's like it's like being the mayor of a small town, really, by being a community creator. And the question is like, how do you even start a community? And my simple answer is this. We build our communities with people. We don't build communities for people. I'll say it again. We build communities with people. We don't build communities for people. So I didn't build a podcast community for the listeners of How to Podcast You. I've been building a community with the listeners of How to Podcast, right? So when I show up in my community as the leader of the community, the mayor of the town, I show up to serve. I don't show up to be the all-knowing podcast guru. I show up as Dave, the one that facilitates conversation, creates a safe place for people to ask questions without feeling intimidated that question was stupid or you should already know this already. We have people that have been in the group for years and they still haven't started a podcast. Do we want them to start? Yes, we want them to start their podcast. Yeah, that's the whole idea. We want to be podcast focused in conversation. We don't want to get off on, mindset or business or all these other things. We want to focus on podcasting. And we want everyone to have a podcast or be on a journey of starting a podcast. That's the idea for the group. But we don't make somebody feel unwelcome because they don't have a podcast. It's open to everybody. We're on this path of talking podcasting. That's our main North Star. That's the reason why we're gathering. And everything's filtered around that. So we're building the community together. It's not built around me. The podcast meetup isn't, even though I organize it, even though I run most of the meetings, even though I create the artwork for the event and I do all the work on Meetup to make the event happen, it's not about me. It's about us. And you get that tone to our community when you arrive. Right from the beginning. New people show up. They're the center of attention. We make sure they feel welcome. They feel like they have a voice. It's not one of those meetups or communities where you sit on mute and listen to one or two people talk about their podcast or their thing. And you're like, why am I even here? I'm just like a casual audience member. I'm not a community member. I'm an audience member. We don't do that for our meetups. And that's not how we do community. We do community together. We build communities with people, not for people. And that's one thing I would tell you to keep in mind. And understand that a community is a lot of work. It's a lot of work. You have to deal with a lot of different things. You got to make some hard calls. And you got to say no sometimes. And you got to say, or not right now. You got to keep the focus of the group. If you don't keep your hand on the wheel, it's going to get away from you. So don't jump into building communities too soon. And don't do it alone. Don't do it by yourself and hope for the best. So whether you build your community on a rented land like Facebook, it's one area you can do it, or like Meetup, which is also technically rented land. I'm paying for it. Build your community. And if you're not sure how to do community for your particular podcast, whatever it is, then reach out to me. Let's have a conversation. I'd love to talk community. I'd love to share with you my experiences of building my Meetup community over the last 3 years. A lot of examples I can share. And hopefully this gives you clarity and helps you build community the right way. So build community with people and not for people. That's probably one of the best pieces of advice that I could give at this point. If you need more, howtopodcast.ca. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate you listening to the end. Take care.